Hey there, this is Katherine Cartwright. Welcome. I am sharing some shimmer paste from Diamond Press. I have had this for a little bit of time and I'm just getting around to doing a video, but I'm going to be using some of the shimmer paste. I wanted to try it out with some stencils and I'm going to do some other little things with it. So I've got all my bottles. I just opened them. I've got some Bristol cardstock. I've got some, and I'm using Bristol Smooth, I should say. You can use regular cardstock, but sometimes I like to ink blend after I use a stencil with some paste. So, and Bristol is a great paper that will take ink blending, like with distress or something, very well. So I tend to use the Bristol cardstock for that reason, but it's not a necessity. It's just wanted to point that out. If you enjoy ink blending over dried texture paste or shimmer paste or something like this, that's why I do it. All right, so I've also got some mint tape here that I'm using, this low tack tape. And this matte, I think it's silicone. I think it might be from Diamond Press. I'm not totally sure. I found it in my craft stash, and so I wanted to pull that out to protect my mat. The mat underneath is pretty new for me. I finally replaced mine, and so I'm doing my best to keep it clean. We won't see. It won't last that long, but I'm at least trying. Okay, so I've got my tools here. I've got a couple of palette knives. I've got a little Mauve spatula that I love, that I use a lot, that's silicone as well, and so it wipes off really easy. So this first one, I'm going to keep this in real time. I'll speed up the rest of them, but I'm adding some material to my palette knife, and I'm kind of running it on the edge. I like to have it at an angle because it lets it spread, but it doesn't smush flat. If you run the palette knife, I find sometimes flat on there with too much pressure, it will smush underneath. Now, this shimmer paste is a little bit of a thinner material than a texture paste or something like that you may have used, like a modeling paste. Those have what I call more body to them, and so they're a little bit thicker, and you have to be a little more careful when you apply them through a stencil because too much pressure, and even I do this, I'm sure in this video, I'm going to put too much pressure and I'll smush a little bit. And that's just kind of the nature of this product. If you're one for perfection and everything has to be just perfect, this is probably not something you would enjoy because there's a little bit of a learning curve. Sometimes you mess up, and that's just kind of how it is, in my opinion. So that's my experience. Okay, so I've got my texture paste. I'm going to use texture paste in a minute. Shimmer paste. I'll probably mix it up again. This is the shimmer, and I'm going to peel this back and show you what I've got. Then I'll let all these dry, and then I'll revisit them in the end. So when I peel my stencil off, I just kind of go for it because I have problems where if I go really slow, sometimes I'll let it fall and it'll fall back on itself. So I just it's kind of like ripping off, if you've got a bandage on or something like that, I kind of just peel it off with care, but I go ahead and commit to it to peel that off so I don't let the stencil fall back onto my work. I've done that before many times. So I like the way this has turned out. It looks good. I'm going to spray my mat. When you're working with a paste or something, I recommend having a little spray bottle with water. This is a water-based product, and so I want to wet it to get it off my mat. It will dry on if I don't wet it. And then you can get it off, but it's just kind of a pain. So I try to keep it wet after I finish and then clean it up and move to the next one. All right, I've got some more colors here, and I'll list them. I know the video is going fast at this point. I've sped it up, so you don't have to see how long it takes me to do this. And since I showed you the first one, but I'm going to pick 3 colors here. I've got this little it's kind of a stencil. I would call it a scraper from scrapbook.com. And I've been trying to add this to my rotation to apply to stencils to get kind of better at it. I've only used it a few times, and it works really well, but you just have to apply enough material on there to have kind of one swipe to get it into your stencil. And I did find that the pressure was good, and I didn't have really any smushing on here. I think because you're at the angle, it keeps the product from smushing in there too much. So I actually really enjoyed this. And I'm just cleaning up a little bit down here on the bottom, the little bits that I missed. And then I will peel this one back and we will see how this looks. And this looks pretty good out of the gate. I can tell that I had pretty good coverage there. And I had that extra paste. I didn't want to waste it, so I have this Distress. It kind of has a crackle, I think it's called crackle leather. And I wanted to see if I could add some water to this, since it appears to be a water-based product, if I could turn this into kind of a watercolor. And so I've got a nice wide brush here, and it has all this beautiful shimmer. So I don't want to waste it. I'm not going to put these back in the jar because I can't separate the colors. So I wanted to see if using it this way would work. And it appears to be really, really good for this application. So I'll either die cut this when it dries, maybe for a sentiment, or I will use this to create a background. So I'll show you that after it dries, but I'm just going to set that aside and let that one dry. Again, back with the water bottle, and I will use some paper towels to clean this up. And then I will keep moving on. So again, I just pulled out a bunch of different stencils from Diamond Press. They're from different kits, and so I decided to try them out. I'm going to use this the scraper thing again, the stencil spatula. Maybe it's a spatula would be a good word for it. This spatula tool, I'll link it in the description. It's very reasonably priced, I remember that, and seems to be performing pretty well. So I think this might be the mauve color of the shimmer paste, and then I'm going to add some more material on here so that I can fill up my page. And I did have a little few, these lines on this stencil are a little bit thinner and more delicate, and I pushed a little too hard. You can't really see it unless you look really, really close, and I would still definitely use this panel. It's not so flawed that I couldn't make that work. So, because sometimes, you just mess them up and you can't use them, but this one turned out okay as well. And it seems to be spreading pretty well. Just be careful of putting too much pressure. All right, again, going to cap that back up, and I will clean up my workstation. So I am going away in between and rinsing off my stencils. I have a sink, and I will put them in there and let them soak, and then it comes off really easy. So I've got this palette paper pad that I wanted to try. I use some stencil butters, which is another kind of product similar to this. And this time I'm going to use some of the Diamond Press texture paste. And I want to see how that is going to work out. This I want to mix together. The texture paste has a little bit more body to it. It's a little bit thicker. And so it will thicken up when I mix it with the paste. It's going to thicken up. And I realized pretty quickly that I put too much of the texture paste in there because it really, really lightened the color. So I'll fix that the second time that I use. I'm going to use this Marigold for my second color. This first one's kind of a gold. But you can see when I mix it together, I've got a good bit of white, and it really, really lightens it up. And so I'm just going to keep working that together, and I can tell that it's just really very, very light, but I'm still going to use it. And I'm going to add a little bit more here, but again, I used a little bit too much white. You can keep adding more of the shimmer paste, but I didn't want to waste it. So if I did it again, which I will in a second with the Marigold, I will just be a little bit less generous with the white paste that will lighten that color up. It does take a little bit of the shimmer away, and I'll show you that at the end when it's dry. But again, I wasn't going to waste it. This is the fun part about these kind of products, doing some mixed media work, is you just kind of experiment and find what works and what doesn't work. And I do think, though, that it spreads a little easier when you mix it with the texture paste, but it does lighten it a little bit. And so I'm just going to take the rest of this here and kind of mix it together. And then let's see our results. And this one, again, is on Bristol. So it turned out kind of cool, and then I'll bring it back when it's dry. I've got texture paste again, and I'm going to use another one of the blues. I'm just going to use one color here, and I will mix this together, again being a little less generous with the white. So you can see it definitely lightens up. You can see the bottle on the right, how vibrant it is, and this is definitely more muted. But I actually really liked this color. So if you have texture paste This is one thing if you needed a different color. Let's say you didn't need this bright blue over here and you really wanted a soft blue or even to a lighter hue of pastel. You can just add some more white, and then you have some more, you can kind of stretch your products out. So that's one benefit of having something like a texture paste. And you can use another brand. This is just the diamond press that I had in my craft stash that came from the mixed media kit. If you remember that, that's been a while ago, but there was a big mixed media kit that had tacky paste and texture paste, and I'll link that video in the description because I did some work with it as well. And this is Geometric Shapes. This was just another random stencil from my craft stash. And there it is. I love that stencil. I'm going to have to work with that stencil some more. All right. Now I did want to do one more color here. I'm using the silver that is beautiful. You can see the shine right when you open that bottle, but I'm using this on black cardstock, and I'll explain why in a minute. But I'm just going to add this onto, I've got some smooth black cardstock left over. I had it's like a writing pad or something, but you can use any black cardstock. But I'm just using that to work with the stencil. And I've run out of palette tools, so I picked up another one from my craft stash, and it's kind of it's like it's falling apart. It's so old, and so I got to go clean my palette knives because I'm running out of them. But that's the fun part, is just doing that together and using your different tools. All right, so I'll let that one dry, and then once again I'm going to pull out the silver. I've got some watercolor paper on this one, and I'll tell you why in a second when they dry, why I'm using the watercolor paper. So just to note that this is watercolor paper. And this is another stencil, stars. I've got graduation coming up for a child, and so I will definitely use this stencil a lot to create some backgrounds for some graduation cards. So once I'm happy with this all over my stencil, I'll peel this back and let this dry really well as well. And it takes a couple hours. I usually leave things like this for a couple of hours. I don't think it takes that long, but I like to be safe rather than sorry. And sometimes I'll leave them overnight or days. Okay, so now it's nice and dry. I've got a spray from Distress. This is Blueprint Sketch. And I wanted to see how this shimmer paste performs after it is dry. I suspect it will stay intact, but I just wanted to give it a try. So I've really saturated this card, and I'm going to blot some of this off. You can see that it resists the stars, the texture. Shimmer paste stars resist this very well, and they still are silver. And so I'm going to wipe each of those little stars down and get off any extra ink, and I will let that dry. But it is beautiful, and it doesn't seem to have affected the dried shimmer paste. All right, so that was a quick video just showing you these things. This is the first one. You can see the shine and shimmer on that, beautiful. Here is that one on the watercolor paper that I just used some leftover paste and water. Here is one that I mixed together and then just used that little spatula to kind of just do one sweep of the stencil. Here are the stripes. Turned out pretty good. There are a few little errors there, but again, I can cover those up with a well-placed sentiment or a little die cut image. Here are the ones that I mixed with the texture paste. You can see they're not as shiny, but still really, really pretty. There's a little shine on it. The camera's hard to pick it up, but you can see the difference between the two. Mixing it with that texture paste definitely will cut through some of the shimmer, but there is a very subtle shine on there, and I really, like I say, you can stretch your colors because you can make them different shades, so that's a benefit. All right, here is that one that I did on the black cardstock, and I've got a piece of this same cardstock, but I did it with glitter paste. This is also Diamond Press. I wanted to show you the difference between the two. So there is a shine with the shimmer, but nothing like their glitter paste. And then here is the one that I used on watercolor paper and then sprayed, the ink on top, and it performed beautifully. It didn't affect any of the paste. So that's just a quick video I wanted to share on the shimmer paste and check them out. Let me know if you've tried this product and what you think, or if you're interested in mixed media. Thanks so much. Have a great day.